It's April 15th, 2013. Nice day. I mean, not too different from what's happening out here today. When my brother decided to run the Boston Marathon, that was something the whole family was going to get together for and cheer him on, so I was going to be there. I mean, the day starts with his nerves. We're nervous for him, the excitement, the thrill of seeing him go by on Heartbreak Hill. You know he has 6 miles left. This is the best part. And then the crowd is the thickest as you get towards the center of the city and turn onto Boylston. And he does make it all the way through to the finish line, and then gets his bearings and like, I gotta run again. Be no surprise to our viewers, you know, that I have a special place for Boston, obviously. I grew up there, a lot of my family's still there, everything started there. It's a very special place.
I started thinking about marathons, and I'd love to run the Boston Marathon. My family, they could be there at the finish line and cheer me on, and I just started training for it while I raised money for Boston Children's Hospital. But the goal was I had to do it in under 4 hours.
Our first stop was going to be Heartbreak Hill, so that's around mile 20.
I remember when I got to Heartbreak Hill, my family was there. That was a huge help to get me up the hill. I think my brother even jogged with me a little bit up the hill because I was struggling so bad to get to the top of the hill.
And then finally, I just sort of let him go over the hill. And then I said, okay, let's get in the car, let's go. I know I want to get to that finish line, you know, by 4 hours. Running, looking, it's a lot of chaotic. Heard a pop in the background.
Something just blew up.
There maybe was some smoke on the horizon, but I'm thinking celebratory fireworks. You know, you're just not in that mode of thinking something went wrong. But all of a sudden, I hear a second pop. Now you see people running.
At first, I thought maybe a transformer. I heard some screaming, saw some people running.
I know my brother. He was in One New York Plaza in 9/11. He saw the first plane go by. Immediately got out, not listening to people stay up there. He went up the east side and he walked uptown. So he had been through, you know, a traumatic experience. I wonder if that trained him to respond the way he did.
Boston was so much worse for me mentally. Having to run that day when the building started coming down was nothing near to the fear that I had in this event because I had no family nearby. I could run on my own, whatever I needed to do to get away from that situation. I didn't have a cell phone on me. I knew that my family was somewhere near the finish line. It was a very scary moment.
A lot of times going by, and I'm alone now, separated from my family because I ran out of the car, so they don't know about either of us at this point.
I ran into a woman that I trained with randomly, and she had a phone.
And finally, I get a call. It's not a cell phone I recognized.
If someone's gonna pick up the phone, it would be my brother.
Kind of in shock the way he's talking to me. He's like, I'm okay.
So I had to kind of go back towards where the explosions happened, as close as we could get to find my family.
He finished 3 minutes before the explosions happened. I know he just made it and heard what was going on and made it his way to safety.
I'm not 100% sure where we finally met up, but that was some moment. My 2 little kids at the time, my wife, you know, my parents, and knew my brother was okay. It was a terrible experience, that unknown for how many minutes it was to not know the status of my family.
Our producer from the station, Jay Holder, elite runner, was running and he had finished way before the bombings happened. I don't know that I've ever used like the app on the phone to broadcast back to the station, but he came down, we got on and we started our coverage.
It was really scary. I didn't know what was going on. People were screaming. And I didn't know where my family was because they were trying to get to the finish line and watch me. So it was really bad just to be there alone and not know what was happening and no one around you knowing what was going on.
I don't know, it was really hard to take to see everything happening and the unknown, and you're feeling 9/11 all over again. But this time I was feeling it where I grew up.
As soon as I heard about it, I went to the office, figured out what crew I was going with. We just went. We were right in the area of the end of the marathon, the finish line. They hadn't locked all of that down. There was a big crime scene, but they hadn't locked all of that down, and reporters were allowed to get relatively close. Even by the time we were there were still people to talk to, people who had heard it.
Started running, we started crying, and they just started telling us to get out. I was terrified, absolutely terrified.
A lot of the details were not clear yet. We didn't know who was responsible for it. All those people lining the route, all of those thousands of people, the vast majority of them adults, they chose deliberately to put one of those backpacks directly in front of a child. They chose that kind of terror. And that is what I always think back on, that this wasn't a momentary thing. They intended to terrorize this country, and that's what they did. You get to the end of the 11 o'clock and we think, well, we're done for tomorrow, but they were not done. And that's what the police were dealing with. Those guys were still out there, still trying to kill people, and as many as they could. Knowing that that murder happened of that security guard, that just led to so much more fear in the area that these people weren't done and they weren't gone. There was so much misinformation, especially in that first day and a half. They actually had to come forward with the names of the Tsarnaev brothers earlier than they wanted to, because they had to say, no, these other people are not suspects. The people we're focusing on are these two brothers.
He is moving. We have movement in the boat. He just sat up.
We knew pretty early on where this brother had been found who was inside the boat. And remember, he had fallen asleep in this boat and someone spotted him while he was sleeping.
And I look in the boat over here on the floor, and I see blood.
And so we were just hoping nobody else got killed. We were just hoping that the damage was done, that this guy would either surrender or be shot himself, and that it would be over. And that's what Boston was looking for. They just wanted this to end. It had dragged on days by then, and with so much fear because these two were out there, what else did they plan?
You felt pride on a lot of levels, you know. First of all, the way the first responders and the people running to the people, which events like this seem to always bring that out, but it was amazing to see the city respond. And then the determination to get these people to justice because they knew the window was going to be short. And that would have been even more painful if it lingered.
Our thoughts are with everyone in Boston tonight.
And everyone who is suffering as a result of the bombings at the marathon.
You see this in the wake of tragedy again and again, and you certainly saw it in Boston during those days. People came down to offer consolation, to offer hope.
And I'm sure Boston will overcome this just like the people in New York City did.
It was a wounded city. It was a wounded city, but they were going to get by this.
That year was incredible after that. The days to follow at Fenway. Then it was a team that was not likely to win a World Series, went on an incredible run and carried the city.
The Red Sox are world champions.
You know, 617, Boston strong, the whole thing. No, that was an incredible show of strength in the city. There are just so many heroes.
It's mixed emotions whenever Marathon Day comes, because I remember that day so vividly. You hear marathon, it's part of it. I do want to do another marathon. In fact, I want to do Boston again just so I have a better experience at the end.